Hello and welcome to the podcast. There is a bit of a difference. We are not on video today, and good reason for that. This is the podcast that I have been saying we were going to have. We, as you know, we never had a departure, if you will, a last episode with Michael Murphy, and of course that's for good reason, and won't go into that. But today we have a special guest, and there's several of us on here today, but we have a very special guest, and that is his wife Erica, and we're just going to kind of have a round table and just talk and just have I kind of got this idea a few weeks ago. Church was over, and I thought this would be a good way to remember him. And those of you who listened and remember, we always had a saying, and me and Michael had a joke. It was two things. It was either the Raymond Reddington effect, or it was the George Soros effect when something went wrong. And today would have been a mixture of both George Soros and Raymond Reddington. But we aren't here to just, remember him. We're here to remember all the good times, and Michael brought a lot to the show, and there has been a lot that we've missed him a lot. And without any further ado, Erica, just say hello to everybody, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and let you. I'm going to pitch you the ball. You don't have to say much. Just.
Hey guys.
There we go. Hey guys, that's a good way to start it off. But I brought in today. Every show that we did, Michael would always bring in nitro coffee. So I brought in some as a memory to him, and just Chandler, start off with something, man, that you think is fitting.
Well, I mean, we all know he liked to talk.
He did.
And he was very good at statistical conversations and historical. And, when we started this podcast, I thought, who would be good? Because, Javon started it off with you, and it was good to have, the Bible scholar versus the new Christian, and how that kind of, not versus, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but bringing Michael into the show was just this wealth of knowledge. He had a radio voice, kind of had it all, really.
He did.
And he always had something to bring to the table at the police department as well. But really, you could have a 3-hour podcast and still be listening, because he had so much interesting things going on in his head that he was able to accurately speak about.
Mm-hmm.
So, not just a best friend, but just someone who contributed in multiple ways to this church, to the police department, to this podcast, and just a really, really, really solid guy.
Well, and you're talking about contribution, and that's a good way for me to kick it off to the pastor, because one of the things that he contributed is the men's group was something that was very difficult to get started, and Michael just kind of came in, took the reins on that, and took off. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was important what he did there in the men's group, because he brought in a coat of arms, was the first thing he did, and got everybody rallied around, not only the thought of being together, but also what the church actually brought as unity to each member, and then what the members meant to each other. And so he jumped in there and showed everybody what it meant to belong, be part of a team, and build that team out. And then if somebody was missing, they felt like they were disappointing him when they didn't show up. So brought a greater attendance, and how many knows you can't minister to somebody if they're not there. So he brought that accountability to be there, reminding everybody that the event was taking place, and then also executing the event with a high level of, accountability and just preparedness for everything that he did. So that was great.
Yeah, speaking of the coat of arms, he came to me one time and he said, "This is what I'm thinking about doing. Will you help me?" And I said, I don't know anything about that, but I will help you. It's almost like a family crest, I guess. But he was very, what's the word?
Detail oriented.
Yeah, And he was like, so you have to have 4 figures or whatever, and I want them all to mean something. And he came up with what each meant, and the colors, and with him, it was like you said, very very detail oriented, and everything meant something. So it wasn't ever just thrown together or, just lackadaisically put together. It meant something.
Mm-hmm. Just pull the mic a little bit to you.
So I'm the pastor's wife, Tiffany, and I just wanted to, when he was talking about back to the coat of arms and back to the vision that Michael had, just how important it was, and how God sends people into your life that walk alongside the vision that God has given you. Because when our son was like 12 or 13, Chris had read a book called Raising a Modern Day Knight, and that was kind of what it was based around, was raising a gentleman, a man after God, a warrior for his family. And that was kind of the vision that, God had put into Chris's heart. Well, then here comes Michael, right? Not knowing, what Chris had talked about, and just having a community of men come around the boys in the church and just helping to raise them up for the Lord. And so Michael comes in with this whole idea of this knight and a warrior. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of how God used him in that season, right? And how God places people in our lives to carry out the vision that he has for that body of believers.
And the good thing about what he did there is capturing the idea of that modern day knight was also capturing the heart of those young boys.
Yeah.
And so the men's group is not only about the men getting better, but it's also mentoring up that next generation of men. And he was able to speak into their lives and capture their hearts, where he could absolutely speak into their lives, and they were able to come to him, and he was never too busy to talk with them.
What's even better though is that not only was he speaking to them, but they were talking back. Like he got them all engaged.
They were very engaged, and that's what I say when I say that there's a huge hole here within the podcast, because there was always something. I mean, he would always send some kind of very detailed, hey, I think this would be good to talk about on Saturday, and he just always was ready to go. I mean, I never had to worry about that with him. But Erica, I know that you're probably a little bit nervous. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to be nervous about here. But just kind of tell us a little bit from your heart. How you met, how you kind of knew, hey, this is the guy right here.
Well, like everyone's kind of talked about, he was a talker. And he loved to learn and share his knowledge. And when we first met, I was very quiet, as I mostly still am. So he did a lot of the talking. I did a lot of listening. And I just could tell that he had such a loving and caring heart. He loved people and kids. I always loved coming home from work and stuff, or he would come home from work and he would always have something to tell me about whatever it was that happened that day. Some fact about something. I, of course, can't remember. His memory was incredible.
Yeah.
And he had a gift for whatever he read, he just understood.
Yeah.
But also, talking about the kids, he had a unique gift in that he could explain the Bible on their level, which me as an adult sometimes I don't understand. But he always could figure out a way to explain it to even our son who's 5 in a way that he could understand. Yeah.
That was a testament to his excuse me, his gifting as a teacher. It's often been said that if the students don't learn, the teacher doesn't teach. But a lot of that comes down to if the teacher doesn't understand, they can't teach.
Yeah.
And Michael had a way of being able to break stuff down very quickly, very easily, and simplistic. I mean, as brilliant of a mind as he had.
Yeah.
And when he came to the podcast, it brought several people to it. I was even kind of shocked because our subscription to everything just went up. And he just, and that's one of the reasons that it's sometimes hard preparing for the podcast. Just what I mean by that is always trying to make certain that I'm doing the due diligence to keep those people and to honor their time for coming here, because I mean some of them are still listening and they're liking and still commenting. Yeah. And that's what I use that also as the men's meeting, is that Michael proves that if you're doing something for God and you're doing it with your heart, you can do something that will outlast you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt he's left a legacy here.
Absolutely.
And the police department. They talk about him often.
Yeah, it did. And part of that is, when you read the story of Joseph, he tells his brothers what you meant for evil, God turned for good. Yeah. A lot of times when Satan thinks he's delivered a knockout blow, the truth is that he has set something in motion that God's going to get greater glory out of. God's not going to get glory out of death and sickness, but he'll get greater glory out of the culmination. And we don't know. We don't know just who all's life Michael has been a testimony to.
Yeah.
And did you have something that you would want to add?
Well, just talking about, him leaving that legacy, what Emma had wrote on your shelf the other day. I don't know if you're comfortable telling that or not, but I thought it was amazing and I think that's the testimony that he left to those kids.
Yeah.
I was fixing to run out the door, and I happened to look over, and we have a bookshelf that has like a whole bunch of DVDs and movies and stuff on it. And in the dust, she wrote, "Love Jesus." And at the time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to clean." But then the more I thought about it, and when I talked to Tiffany about it, she said, that's a testimony to what y'all have done in raising them. So it's little things like that the kids do that I'm like, when you think things are not okay, God will send you a message.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
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 It's kind of cool too, right? Because even in the dust, in the imperfection, in the mess, in the dirt, in the nuts and bolts of life, God shows up.
Yes. Yes. He absolutely does.
Jesus rode in the dirt, right? Jesus rode in the dust. So that's where he meets us, is when we're at the low point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, and that is where, just like you said, God will send a message. God never, Jesus said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Mm-hmm. And he promises to go with us to the ends of the earth. And sometimes those days, we talked about this on Wednesday night. Out of all the patriarchs in the Bible, Joseph is the one God never appears to. The book of Esther is the one book God has never mentioned. But in both of those instances, it is apparent God's at work, which allows us to understand the scripture. We walk by faith and not by sight. Our faith has to be grounded in God's word, in his promises, what we know he has spoke to us, and then those being confirmed by scripture.
Absolutely.
And then God will lead those things for us, or leave those things for us along the way to go, hey, just keep going. And it's amazing, but God is at work through all of everything that goes on, even those things that we don't understand.
Yeah. Well, when you talked about, his ability to teach, but I think about my mind, not that that's wrong, but my mind goes to how passionate he was about anything that he did. It was like, if there were holes in what he was doing, he had to fix them.
Yeah.
And it had to be 100%.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him one time about an experience that I'd had, and Pastor and I were talking in Colorado about him hearing the like the audible voice of God. And I said, well, who wouldn't want to? I mean, I say who wouldn't. I wanted to hear it. And he was like, well, you can. So just pray and listen for him. And I did. And so I thought, well, because Michael, he loves that kind of stuff. And so he was like, well, I want to. And I said, okay. Well, I said, let's pick an afternoon. We usually have our prayer services here at the church on Sunday afternoons. I said, let's stay over. And we'll just pray together that you hear something. And, because how we all know that the ultimate reward in life and in existing is the presence of God.
That's right. That's right.
And so he wanted to feel that. He wanted to hear him. And he had already been diagnosed. He was already in his wheelchair. And it didn't even end up being a Sunday afternoon. We just we were talking, and he was like, can we just go over there? And I said, yeah, let's go. So we were over here, and he was sitting in the front row, and I was in the back, and probably no one listening knows this, but I'm usually not quiet when we pray. And so I'm in the back praying for him. And we just want God. The whole thing is just, we want your presence.
Yeah.
And he was up here praying. And I remember just this feeling to just be quiet, just stop. And so I sat down, and we sat there for a good 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll stay as long as it takes. And all of a sudden, he kind of looks back at me, and then looks back at me again, and then doesn't say anything. I'm like, is he maybe I should initiate? Maybe we should get up,
Yeah.
And I just waited. And then at the end of it, he was like, why were you calling my name? I said, I didn't say your name. And he was like, no, someone called my name. And I said, Michael, it's the whole reason we're here. It was the Lord. It was not me. Mm-hmm. And that, I could tell that made a mark on him. He knew God was real. He knew Jesus saved him. But it's different when you hear him.
Right.
Oh,
it is. Absolutely.
And it wasn't one of those things that it was teetering on whether or not he would believe. It was just icing on the cake, if you will.
Yeah. And
that's just one of the many experiences we've had with him because of how great his faith was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
his faith, it absolutely was. And one of the things, I'll just try to pull this up. One of the things was he always felt as though, and he would always apologize. I don't want to feel like I'm letting you down or whatever. He always felt like he was the one, and he would always tell me, "Hey, man, anytime you feel like I'm not contributing to the show, let me know." And he said, he even told me at one point, he said, "I'm willing to step away." I said, "Let me make that decision." And of course, then it got to the point where he did, and he says, "Hey, brother, I will unlikely be able to continue on the podcast. This speech has continued to deteriorate. I'm finding I have to repeat myself multiple times or have to spell words." And of course, then he goes on to apologize again. And I sent him a text and I said, "Hey, don't apologize." And of course, he even went on to say, "I look forward to coming back." So his faith all the way to the end.
Oh, absolutely.
He never wavered on that. And you mentioned it, how that you actually saw, which sometimes can be counterintuitive. His faith didn't waver. His faith grew through the process.
Yeah. You could even, I was telling Erica here, I don't know, last week I guess it was. I said, if you watch the reel that Chandler put together for his memorial service, right? If you look at that early on in their marriage, you can look at his face and his eyes especially, and you can see like a darkness, like longing, like maybe some bitterness and anger in there. And then like shift that fast forward even till the time that right before he passed away, you could just see a lightness
Yeah.
in his eyes. You could
Yeah.
see a brightness.
Yeah.
You could see joy. Even though he's suffering immensely, you could still see the joy that that only
Yep.
Christ can bring to
Yeah.
somebody. You know, and that eternal hope was there. You know, and so no matter what we go through, this is one of the most horrible things that somebody can suffer through.
Yeah.
But and especially Erica, you know, going through that, it's just, I don't know. There's something about what Christ can do
Yeah.
in somebody's life that nobody else can.
That's
No
right.
matter what trauma, no matter what depression, no matter what things are coming against you, you have an eternal hope.
Yep.
And you could see that through the light and the lens of those pictures, and just see the progression. You know, as the disease got worse, the faith got stronger.
Yeah.
You know, the relationship with Christ got better. You know, and actually you could even see the improvement in your guys' marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you first came to the church, you know, you could see that marriage grow exponentially towards each other, you know, and so it was just impressive to me to watch, you know, that relationship change so dramatically, right? Not that you didn't have a good marriage before, but it got, you may want to talk a little bit about that, but it from the outside, it got much
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I did want to bring that up because, I mean, in that situation, some people would have found that easy to just say, hey, I'm out. This is too inconvenient. You did not. And that's a testimony to you.
Yeah, she's my hero.
Me too. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, there's nothing like watching
right.
someone go through something like that. And I remember asking you one time, like, how are you doing this? And probably was not the right question to ask, 'cause, you know, but you just said, I just do it. And it's just amazing the amount, because people will never know the amount of things you had to do. And and it's not for them to hear. However, we saw someone step up to the plate. There's no doubt in our mind that you loved him. There's no doubt in our mind that you love those kids. And he jokes, but you are my hero.
Yeah.
Like,
It wasn't a joke.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that, but
Well, listen, when Chris gets a man cold, I have to remind myself, look at where Erica is. I can do this.
Well, the man cold is nothing to play with, that's for sure.
it was amazing to witness. Hard to watch, but amazing to witness.
So was that was just a day in and day out? Just, I mean, obviously you made the determination. I'm sticking this through, and that is, see, that's something I want. You know, one of the, and I'm going to bring up Joseph again. One of the things that God blessed Joseph for was just simply his faithfulness. Joseph learned faithfulness in everything he did, and the Bible says that it was through suffering that Jesus learned it. So Jesus doesn't expect us to do anything he didn't put himself through. And I think perhaps at this point you've not even begun to see what God has in store simply because of your act of faithfulness day in and day out.
Yeah.
And I know that's not why you did it, but
I feel almost like, well, in my mind, there was never an option to not take care of him.
wow.
Because when you love somebody and you make that commitment, like,
Wow.
it shouldn't matter what happens to them, or you, like, because you both have to make sacrifices. Our whole family made sacrifices, but we all still, came together and loved each other, and there was no bitterness or, any ill feelings, regardless of how hard it was in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes people, even over the littlest thing, want to just call it quits. But that's not what that covenant you made, right, with your
Yeah.
spouse and the
Yeah.
Lord. Till death do you part is not something that should be taken lightly. And
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No.
so there was never a question in my mind not to take care of him, or
The-
not to do my best to, take care of him and the kids. Like,
Yeah. No, I was going to say I wish every married couple in the world could have heard what your statement there. That's probably the key statement. I never had there wasn't another option. We live in a world where everything's an option. That was never an option for you. This is my commitment, and you just hit the nail on the head. God is a God of covenant.
Yeah.
He takes covenants extremely serious.
Yeah.
And he blesses those who take them that way, because it's covenant is how he has strategized and set everything forth.
and I know without a doubt, 100%, if the roles were reversed between him and I,
Oh.
he would have done
Yeah.
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
He would
Absolutely.
have done that for like one of us.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think that's why we had such a commitment to him,
Mhm.
right? Is because his level of commitment
Yeah.
himself, right? I mean, you felt like if you didn't have that same level of intensity, you were going to let him down,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what he expected out of you too.
Yeah.
and I know it seems like we're like you putting him up on a pedestal or whatever, but he really was all of these things.
Yes,
Like,
you're right.
I remember, I don't want to speak for you, Tiff, but like when you said he walked in, like you could tell the Holy Spirit was all over him.
Mhm.
When I met him, and when we went on that trip down south together, I knew this lifelong friendship locked in, and he just had a way with connecting with people that was just unique.
Mhm.
I mean, just random people at the restaurants, like he could get them talking, and and I can't do that. So
No, he was great at that. And of course, he also too, and I know some people got to leave, but he had a sense of humor too. That was that he kind of slip it in. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we had this inside joke here within the podcast. It was the Raymond Reddington effect, or the George Soros effect. And if it was a conspiracy theory, it was Raymond Reddington. If it was something that we were having problems, technical issue, typically on my end because I wasn't figuring something out, it was the George Soros effect. And one Saturday we were in here, and there was this, what do you call those? A murder of crows that was out there? Is that what you call them?
yeah.
And I am not joking. I mean, those things were in there, and they were hitting up against the door and everything. And he just, he raises that one eyebrow and he looks at me and he goes, George Soros. He would, and it was almost every Saturday. If it wasn't that, somebody would be outside the window weed eating, but something would happen, and he would have something to say about it. Or, I one time, I had one time this situation where I was trying to tell this funny story, and I don't want to call the name because I know some people who know this person, but I think you'll probably remember it. There was a preacher's kid who him and some friends were driving down the road, and they literally flipped the car upside down in the road. And he tells his dad that a demon had come out and flipped the car up. And I said, can you imagine trying to explain that to a police officer? And Michael takes the next. I wanted to isolate that, but I couldn't find that. He takes probably the next 15 minutes describing how the police were going to determine how fast they were going.
Yes, that's him.
And he explained how many times they're going to run the test, what they're going to do. And I was just going, all right, I'm just going to let him go with it.
Yeah, he would have. He while you were saying that, he was reconstructing the accident in his mind. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I know of a time when I was super thankful that Michael was here at the church. You mentioned earlier about there, he hated to leave holes unfilled. And I had been after my husband. I was like, we need to paint the church. It's really like it needs a facelift. Like we need to paint the church, and he wasn't wanting to do it. And so you and Michael came in and started poking holes in a classroom, but Michael seen holes other places and just like
In the foyer.
Like whatever, what's the filler that you
Spackle. Yeah.
And so we come in and it looked like a dog that had mange because there was just patches all over the hallway. And Chris was like, oh my Lord, what did they do? And I'm like, I don't know, but thank you. Because he's like, now I'm going to have to paint.
Yeah.
Well, he lived.
That was 25 gallons of paint that we had
It
to
was.
for the next 5 days.
It was.
Well, and
5
for
days
sure.
of our life. It was nothing but painting 12 hours a day.
Michael lived by the philosophy it's easier to get forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And one of the things, and I can tell this, but I guess it was the medication that would make him thirsty, and when he'd talk, he'd get dry mouth. And he would always have, like, I'm looking at my sister's cup over here, and he'd have one of those, either a Taco Bell or something with a straw. And so one particular day he come in and he didn't have a drink. So I knew he was going to need something, and so I would always make certain that the cup was lifted up and he would take a drink out of the straw. Well, all we had was these water bottles. So the straw kept sliding into the bottle, and he couldn't take it. And so we devised this plan. It looked like third graders. I knew where there were some straws back here, so we took them and I started connecting them. It was funny because trying to suck that through, he was just getting so frustrated. Nobody could see it because we weren't doing video at that time. Nobody could see it, so I would sit there and be talking, trying to make certain he's getting it. So I'm sitting there having to multitask.
You were getting ready to say something when you said he would buy, I get forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah.
You said buy it.
If he was going to do something, he was going to do it to 100% of his ability.
Yes.
So you asked him to only do one room.
He saw more holes. To be fair.
And then my OCD kicked in and like you can't leave it undone. So now I have to paint the entire church.
But listen, y'all were just bragging on his commitment and his ability to go 100%. So he was just, I was like,
He
thank
did.
you, Jesus and Michael.
Well, I was driving down the road. I was on a Wednesday night. I was with the pastor. We were driving to the church together, and he gets off the phone. He goes, "Oh my God, I gotta paint the church now."
And my OCD won't allow me to paint one room, so I have to paint the entire church. Like every square inch of it.
Well, and we haven't said this yet, but like early on when we first moved in the parsonage, we saw a need for like the fluorescent lights that were blinking and stuff. I just was like, we got to fix this thing up. So I would take probably way too much time over here to come over here and do work or whatever. And Michael and I had started nights together, and we worked nights for like 4 or 5 years, something like that. And this is when he first started coming to the church. I was like, we can't really sleep on our off time anyway very well. I said, so on those nights, just come over to the church with me. We'll talk Bible and kind of have a study together, and we'll do the things that need to get done.
Yeah.
And let's just say that we had a really good Bible study that night because we got multiple things done that night. I didn't think we'd be able to get it done. And so, but I didn't know he had gone into the hallway. So, but anyway, yeah, he helped with so much. We took out that water fountain. We took all of the fluorescent lights in there, and you even came and helped us paint the bathrooms. And there were multiple nights where you were like texting him, going, "Hey, yes, that was a big one because that was a hard job." Because Lord knows that was all kinds of messed up. He came in and fixed that for sure. But I remember you texting him a lot going, "Hey, it's been like 5 hours. You coming home?" But yeah, it's like you said. I mean, once he committed, he was going to see it to the finish.
Yeah, and he always felt like he was letting you down if he didn't. And,
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, and I know he because he laughed about it. And you and the pastor, I'm sure, remember this story. It's right after we we were trying to figure out a security team and whatever, and someone had mentioned something, you can't see it, but back in the back there's a stairway back there, and he went up there and he said, I guess somebody could stand up here and get a bird's eye view. And as he stood up, his head, what was he, 6'7"?
Yeah.
His head hit the drop ceiling tile, and he pushed straight through it almost.
Yeah, because it's only like 5 foot.
Yeah. So it
More than
was,
that, 'cause I'm
Is
only
it?
5'9". I don't have any problems.
he could, it was
There's
so
a
funny.
permanent mark up there for both of our heads.
It was so funny just watching that happen. And it was stuff like that, you know, anytime you have something like that go on, it's going to bring that camaraderie. And,
Yeah,
and
That's tall people problems.
I'm tall, but I'm not that tall. And I mean, it was, you know, and that was always the thing. But he was always, whatever he did, detail, commitment,
Yeah.
and
Shoot.
stick it through.
When we were running audio and changing up the sound system and stuff, he knew nothing. Well, I don't think he knew anything. He acted like he didn't know anything, but he was still committed. Like he
Yeah.
was like, okay, just tell me what I need to do, and then you can work on the more important things.
Mm-hmm,
He just was a servant. He served everyone,
He did.
and it didn't matter what it was.
And that was it. And one of the things that I always appreciated about him is, I knew that on probably every topic, he was his knowledge was going to be so well studied and so well versed. But sometimes when you get a co-host in these kind of situations, if the co-host doesn't know their spot, and I don't mean this because it's my show or anything like that, but you know, when you're a co-host, or if you watch sports, a color commentator does color commentating. They don't try to, you know, take over the job of the commentator. Michael never did that. In fact, there were times that I would tell Michael after show, it's like, man, you know, feel free, jump in. Well, I don't want to. And he always, and I think some of that probably came from his military and his police background. He was always understanding of his lane, air quotes, to the point that sometimes you'd have to kind of encourage him. Hey, you've got more to offer than this, so feel free.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we had a homicide not too long ago, and yeah, we're a small enough police department. We talk. Everyone talks.
Mm-hmm.
And several of the detectives texted me and said, "You know who I would really want to get some insight on this?" And it's Michael, because he would. They would see it from one angle. He would see it from 4.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm sure they've solved it now, but I guarantee you he would have solved it faster. Guarantee you.
Just because of his ability to see.
Yeah, it's something he was born with, you know.
Think about 65 things at once.
Yes.
Yeah. He was definitely he was built for just the investigative.
Yes.
You know,
he loved being a detective.
Yeah, to analyze and look and you know, and sometimes you would think that someone with a mind like that is difficult to talk to, and maybe he was. I myself never ran into that. You know, I never felt like that if I was talking to him about anything, because both he and I love history, but I can grant you he knew more about it than I did.
Yeah.
He never came across like that.
Yeah, he had a way of. He didn't go, well, you know, if you think back, like, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. It was always, well, you know, I've done research on this, and it seems like this happened or whatever. And he's like, and it kind of ties into what you were saying. So it was always to build up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he could talk like I said earlier, to a child and have them understand the concept that he was trying to get across. But then he could also talk to about physics and crazy. Did you know that if the electron doesn't see I'm like, what?
And he didn't even have a PhD.
No! Oh my God. I don't know what you're saying.
No.
We'll just move on.
So I remember one time he tells me and Chris that you guys have got to watch this thing on YouTube. What is the Shroud of Turin? It was like a Chris. It was like a scientist like viewpoint of it. And anyways, I think Chris understood it. I was sitting on the couch. I'm like, this is way above my pay grade. Like, I don't and I looked at and it's just again, just his ability, because they were using all the like fancy $5 words, and I'm like, yeah, it's totally 100% Michael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Take
he'll
your word for
probably
it.
Be ready to give you a pop quiz when you see him on Sunday.
He was, but you know, that's kind of one of the things, and you know, just and I know, not to put you on a spot, but for ministers out there listening, or people out there listening, how do you navigate pastorally in something of that nature?
As far as somebody giving you a video to watch?
No. As far as, you know, because there's always those people that want to be, you know, especially because we do believe in divine healing. We believe in all of that stuff. And yet, you know, as we said with Michael, his faith grew, which I think probably made it a little bit, I don't want to say maybe easier to pastor that, but how do you, you know, when you're trying to pastor that situation, when you're trying to be a father in that situation, a spiritual father in that situation, I mean, for those who would be asking that question, what advice could you give them? You know, as a pastor who has been in that situation.
Well, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
So Hebrews spells it out for us on what it is. So we don't know what holds tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's why we're not God.
Yeah.
And so I believe Michael was going to be healed till the day that he went home to be with the Lord.
Yeah.
And so the men's meeting right before he passed away, which
Yep.
was the Saturday before he passed away, I
Yep.
rallied all the men around and said, hey, look, let's pray.
Yep. That's right.
God's sovereign. He can do anything.
That's right.
And Michael needs a touch from God. He really does need a desperate move of God right now in his life. And so got everybody around, prayed for him again.
Yeah.
You know, had it to do over again, I'd done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No different. We took Michael aside on a couple of retreats to do nothing but just pray with him and do those kinds of things. I'd do it again. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything different. Build him up, believe God, and ultimately he made heaven his home. So that's all we can all hope to
That's
do.
right.
There you go.
Amen.
There you go.
Well,
So eternally, if we keep our walk straight,
Yeah.
we'll get to see him again one day. He finished his course. He kept his faith.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
he said, well, when he walked through those streets, he said, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant."
Absolutely. No, that's it right there. That
Well-
says it best.
when I took over mentoring him early on, you know, and I don't remember, was he diagnosed yet when we first started that? I don't think he was. Kind of to speak on it, like how difficult that may be from that standpoint. Really, what it is you don't. It doesn't matter the person's physical ability, their situation. It's just, how do I get their soul saved?
That's right.
Period.
But Michael started as a very Eeyore mentality
Yes, he
person.
did. He did.
He was very much, I mean, you know, he was like, oh, everything's bad. Everything's
Yeah.
going wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to at the end of his life, he was not that way.
No.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was like, he was the one that says, let's pray. You know, God's got this. You know, so, I mean, you talk about the growth in a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
You know, that in itself shows what God can do.
That's right.
That wasn't him. That was God working through him.
That's right. And that's why that I wanted to read that text earlier, because that was one of the things he said. He said, you know, until I'm able to come back. So his faith was that God was going to heal him. And that's what I say, you know, anybody that's a naysayer, look, God is sovereign, as you said. What we don't see, but God does, is what comes tomorrow.
Right.
And in the closing moments, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do want to give you the last words on what you'd like to say.
Well, I know that he will be missed by a lot. It is missed by a lot of people. And I pray that I can keep his memory alive for my children, for our children. Especially William, because he's 5. But I know where he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know that, one day we'll all be able to see him again.
Yeah.
And this is, I tell my kids, if you live your life in a righteous way and you try to follow Jesus the best that you can,
Mm-hmm.
you'll go see Daddy again.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. And that is a great way of putting it. And of course, one of the great things about technology is one of the ways that the podcast can contribute is you've always got access to the archives. You can always go back, listen, because a lot of that will be in his own words because he was always speaking from his own heart. And then one other thing, and it's in the works, and I can't say anything here, but there is something that is being worked on that Michael and I worked on for the last several months together. Every Saturday we were working on it. At some point it's going to come to fruition. And once again, you will get to see his ability to research as he did. And it is being worked on and hopefully will be completed in the very near future. Go ahead.
Really quick.
Absolutely.
Can I read this? Because this was really a testament of what you were talking about, Pastor, with him, his growth, and the last post that he made on Facebook. Can I read that really
Absolutely,
quick?
please.
So this is April 17th. It's about a month before he passed. But, or excuse me, no, it was a couple of
Week.
days.
Yeah.
It was a couple of days, excuse me.
Monday, wasn't it?
It was a couple of days. Yeah, because
On the 24th.
Yep. So this was the 17th, and he passed on the 24th. And he says, my health has taken a sharp decline recently. I've essentially stopped eating and drinking is difficult. I mention this not for pity, but to emphasize how fleeting life truly is. If we live with a normalcy bias, bad things don't happen to me. That happens to other people. But simple truth is that life is brief. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. That's why it's the utmost importance to give your life to Jesus Christ. You never know when you will step into eternity. I love y'all too much not to share the greatest gift ever given. Right now is a great time to make the decision to accept the free gift of salvation. Another point to consider is for a believer, this is the closest to hell they'll ever be. And for a non-believer, this is the closest they'll ever be to heaven. I've placed my faith and trust in the Lord and hope that you have as well. Thank you for your time and consideration. Love you guys. Enough said.
That was appropriate because every week we would always have the closing remarks, and I think that was appropriate closing remarks coming from Michael himself. And he is going to be missed, but as we've said, stay close to God, follow him, seek him, and you will see him again. Thank you for joining us, and until next week, go with God and be blessed.